Buck, you and I will have to say, were early on the uptake on nobody cares about January 6th. And we're going to talk at the next hour about some amazing Pittsburgh Trump voters who MSNBC set down for a town hall. And I just want to make sure that you guys hear this. And, Buck, it's amazing. But what is incredible is Democrats have been arguing about stolen elections forever. They argued for Donald Trump's entire campaign in 2016 that he had stolen the election. And they said it was a rigged job and collusion, and they investigated it, and they said he was an illegitimate president, and they spent years on it. And so this idea that you aren't allowed, you and me and anybody else out there, isn't allowed to question the legitimacy of Joe Biden's victory because it's a direct attack on our sacred democracy was always laughably absurd. But as we sit here 2 weeks from the midterm, you and I both believe it's going to be a red wave, and we're hoping for a red tsunami. Hillary Clinton is already saying that Republicans are trying to steal the 2024 election. And I do think, Buck, that this hypocrisy, it does register with a lot of voters. I think it's why Stacey Abrams basically never had any chance in her campaign, because she said that she had the election of 2018 stolen, and she's never been able to answer why that makes her any different than Trump. And as a result, she's never really had any kind of elevation in her Georgia governor's race. Well, listen to this. Hillary Clinton already out there saying 2024 is going to be stolen by Republicans.
Right-wing extremists already have a plan to literally steal the next presidential election. And they're not making a secret of it. The right-wing controlled Supreme Court may be poised to rule on giving state legislatures, yes, you heard me that correctly, state legislatures the power to overturn presidential elections. Just think, if that happens, the 2024 presidential election could be decided not by the popular vote or even by the anachronistic Electoral College, but by state legislatures, many of them Republican-controlled.
You know the thing about Joe Biden's a nice guy, and we all actually realize that's just a media construct. Hillary, as a really, really smart person, I'm just going to say this, is also a construct. I'm not saying she's super dumb, but she'll say stuff that no person who was really that bright would say out loud. She's ruthless. We know that. She can't really believe this. First of all, calling the Electoral College anachronistic. It's not anachronistic. The founders set it up for specific reasons, which Hillary, I'm sure, has no idea about. I'm sure she probably repeats the thing of, it's a vestige of oppression. And beyond that, Clay, she also was an election denier right after 2016. She fed into the whole Russia collusion.
Oh, yeah.
Not only did she go along with the Russia collusion lie, she paid for the Steele dossier. Her campaign did, which I'm sure was coordinated with her at the top level. Obviously, you're going to do that kind of Oppo campaign and pay that kind of money and not have anybody know about it? So Hillary Clinton is somebody of no integrity, which is not, we all know that. But beyond that, the fact that she's coming out and saying this goes to just show that I think Democrats, the plan going forward is to always talk about January 6th and then give themselves the space to deny elections. This is the way their minds work. They will say you guys are election deniers while they're denying elections. And I know that's crazy, but that is their kind of crazy.
It also, I think, increasingly is blowing up on them. Because I think, we shared a clip of 10 minutes of Democrats questioning elections, and tens of millions of people have watched that clip as it is circulated across social media. And it's really difficult for me to even get in my head how incompetent right now the Democrat plan, their rollout, their closing argument is. Because, granted, they don't have a great closing argument to make, but I expected them to be more disciplined than they have been, Buck. Even Hillary Clinton shooting off at the lip about 2024. Why are you even talking about that right now? Why does that matter in the 2 weeks before the midterm elections? If you think 2024 rig job is in effect, I'm sure it's going to be argued ad infinitum by Democrats as a part of their baseline argument for why they need to be in control. But I saw this, and they are increasingly going even crazier. And I used to think, Buck, that it was Trump who was helping to drive them crazy. I just think these people they've completely lost their mind. Like, here's MSNBC's Matthew Dowd. Did you see this? He essentially calls everyone who would vote based on inflation a Nazi.
He's the dumbest political analyst on TV. We have to apologize to Anna Navarro and Joy Behar. Matthew Dowd is actually the dumbest political.
What's his background?
He was a Republican. He's one of those. He ran the W. Bush, I believe, re-election effort, and then he became an independent in the Trump era, and then he became a leftist who now carries water for their amusement. But I mean, just based on his on-air and the way he is on, he's blocked me on Twitter. I'm pretty sure he's one of the dumbest and just most utterly worthless people in the political analysis sphere. I just thought everybody should know that background before you hear anything about it.
All right, so here he is arguing that basically you're a Nazi if you're voting based on inflation.
I'm not calling, I'm not going to say that, the GOP are Nazis at this point or whatever, but it certainly sounds very familiar to what happened in Germany, which is a bunch of citizens. Adolf Hitler gets a third of the vote. Nobody thought it could happen there. They kind of went along because they said he was going to solve the economy and fix inflation.
Yeah, that's right.
You can hear those sorts of things. And then, lo and behold, a few years later, they lost their democracy, and they're all like, how'd that happen here? That's my worry. That is my worry. Obviously, the price of a hamburger, the price of milk, the price of gas is concerning. But that is a short-term problem. The loss of a democracy will decimate everyone's freedom.
You're all Nazis. If you're not Nazis, Buck, you're Nazi adjacent, right? I mean,
no,
that's
absolutely.
his argument.
This is the best is when he's like, I'm not calling them Nazis. I'm just saying they're very much like the brown shirts who brought Hitler to power and then conducted one of the worst genocides and wars in the history of the entire planet. But I'm not saying they're Nazis. They're just, brown shirts that are Nazis.
You notice, too, the argument that he's making is one that Democrats are trying to trot out, Buck, which is inflation is bad, but it's just kind of cyclical, an economic cycle, and it doesn't compare at all to the dangers of our democracy. Well, a lot of people out there are like, well, it doesn't feel very cyclical when it happens every 40 years when we have an imbecile Democrat in office who doesn't understand basic laws of economics. It doesn't really feel cyclical. And so that argument is also not going to register of, hey, you don't have enough money for your basic living needs, but our sacred democracy is way more important than you're being able to afford hamburgers. That's kind of the argument.
I think this is a great reminder, though, for a lot of people who watch CNN and MSNBC and read the New York Times or watch we don't pick on NBC News as much and CBS News as much. It's all the same thing. They're all pushing the same ideas. They're all Team Democrat. The people that are going on TV and lecturing the country about January 6th all the time, their view of what's happening now, Clay, is not, wow, we created an echo chamber of lunacy because we're Trump deranged. Their view is the filthy peasants aren't going along with our narrative. Maybe they should pay more for gas. They really are condescending. They really don't care about the people that they pretend to care about when they want their votes. That's what you're seeing. You're seeing it all over the place.